Smith. We are brought to you by the Almighty Baller Podcast Network. I am joined, as always, by my co-hosts, Kaan Erel and Pete Toal. Kaan, how are you?
I'm doing well, ready to talk about this crazy deadline we had here.
And Pete, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Wild day, so let's get into it.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. We're going to jump right in, and we're going to start with what everyone is talking about. We're going to start with the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they did two big trades today. So let's start off with the first one that broke early in the day, which was Isaiah Thomas, Channing Frye, and the Cavs' own first-round pick to the Los Angeles Lakers for Jordan Clarkson and Larry Nance Jr. And we're going to talk it from the Cavs side first. So getting into it, I had an inkling they might trade Isaiah Thomas. Things were going so poorly with Isaiah that I thought they might move him, but I didn't expect them entirely to do that. And I certainly didn't expect them to go to the Lakers. And now coming back is Clarkson and Nance. So, Pete, I'm going to start with you. Does this trade, and I know we get a factor in what they did, but this trade by itself, does this trade improve the Cavaliers this year?
I think Larry Nance improves them. I don't know how much Clarkson does anything different than what Isaiah Thomas has already done, which is hold the ball, dribble around, and kind of look to score more than, play defense or facilitate for others. Larry Nance being a hustle guy, I think he can help kind of plug in and help any team. So that's a good addition, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I definitely think it's Clarkson, I think he's just as good as Isaiah with the way Isaiah has played this year. He's definitely struggled. I really love what Nance brings Cleveland as an energy, kind of bouncy big. He's probably going to come off their bench would be my guess. I think they will likely continue with Tristan Thompson and Kevin Love when Love is back healthy. That'll be the starting bigs. But Nance will come in. He gives them something that they don't have, which is a guy who can run the floor, block shots, get up for lobs, and those kind of things. Kaan, your thought on the trade for Cleveland?
Yeah, well, are we only looking at it from the Lakers' perspective?
All right. So let's bring in everything else they did because it's not really fair to, I guess, look at it piecemeal like that. So they also acquired Rodney Hood and George Hill today, and those two guys will join Clarkson and Nance. So those are the four new players coming in. The guys they said, "Oh, keep me honest here, guys, because it's a lot of people." Jay Crowder, Mon Shumpert, Derrick Rose, and am I missing somebody?
Dwayne Wade went to Miami.
Dwayne Wade to the Miami Heat. So we'll talk about Wade to the Heat when we get down to the
Channing Frye went to the Lakers.
Channing Frye and Isaiah Thomas. Yeah, we touched on them when we talked it. So basically most of their rotation, minus a few key guys, are out. So Kaan, your overall thoughts for the Cavs. And what I want to start with you with is go ahead and give your overall thoughts, but what do you think will be their starting lineup when, let's assume everybody's back and Love's back healthy and all that?
Yeah, so first off, overall, I mean, I don't see any way you could look at it and think they got worse and they didn't get better, because if you just go positionally, I think Larry Nance is an upgrade over Frye. I think Rodney Hood is an upgrade over Crowder. I think George Hill is an upgrade over Isaiah, at least this year's Isaiah. I think Clarkson, I know we were talking about this earlier, but I think Clarkson is a decent player, and I think he was on the Lakers without like a clear role. He probably thought he was the best player. He was in like a really unstable situation where he knew he was not really wanted by the team and whatever. So I think this being on a contender, being with LeBron James, I think he's really going to step up and surprise people. I think he's the perfect fit as a 6-man scorer on a team. And just overall, they got a lot younger. They got a lot better, more athletic, and the whole change up of the locker room is really gonna make everything, because now LeBron's gonna look at this like, all right, we got a squad. He was not happy with this team before, and now they are just, I think they're gonna be revamped, and I would not be surprised if they just come out guns blazing after the All-Star break. But in terms of starting lineup, first off, in terms of lineup, I just want to say, if you took LeBron James and put the 4 guys they got today on the court, that is a solid lineup with George Hill, Clarkson, Rodney Hood, LeBron James, and Larry Nance. I think that lineup could close some games for them, honestly. But I think they'll start with George Hill. They'll still have JR out there with LeBron, Love, and I think Tristan's still going to stay there, but I would not be surprised if Larry Nance makes a strong push for that starting spot over Tristan Thompson.
I keep seeing that around, people saying that. I don't see it. I don't think he is. I don't know that him and Love are a great pairing as a starting group. Most teams still start a traditional center type. And I think Thompson is better to be that guy in there and bang with them. But I think it'll be the three of them will be the kind of three-headed big man rotation the rest of the way. And, for me, it's George Hill. I think he's going to be terrific for this group. I think he's going to be really, really good. He was at his best in Indiana when he played off the playmaking wing. And he's got the best playmaking wing in the world in LeBron James right now. So I think now he's going to get down there and give them solid defense, good spot up shooting. They're going to really put the ball in LeBron's hands now and say, go create. And then off the bench, now you've got Hood and Clarkson, who they can both go get their own offense. And I think that's going to be an interesting pairing. One thing I worry about is I think they're still a big man short. So I don't know that, Jeff Green is probably their fourth big right now, and I don't know that really cuts it. So I think you got to figure that part of it out. But they've got 2 open roster spots after all of today's moves. And I know Kendrick Perkins is rumored to be coming back, but that's not the answer. No. We know that one. No. That's just glower at guys and help out in the locker room and be the policeman. I do, and I think they're a little heavy on the wing. I think, you've got Clarkson, Hood, James, J.R. Smith, Green, and Chetty Osman, and that's a lot of guys. So, Chetty's probably going to get squeezed out of some PT there. Green will be really that fourth big until they get somebody else. And then Clarkson, Hood, LeBron, J.R. Smith. That it's always good to have a lot of guys, but you can't play 10, 12 guys a night. So it'll be interesting to see how that ultimately breaks down. Now, it was funny as I was updating the salary sheets. And for those of you who follow me for that, those are coming soon. I'm almost done. I had to break to finish to do the podcast here, and then I'll finish later tonight. But one of the things is they are capped out next season, even if LeBron James leaves. They already have over $102 million in committed salaries on the book, which is, that's a gamble. So that's exactly what this was a gamble. And they opened up the cap space for the Lakers to potentially go that direction. So, Pete, I'm going to go to you. We'll close it out with the Cavs. I want to close out. So, Pete, you go, then Kaan. Does this deal today make it more or less likely that LeBron James stays in Cleveland next season?
I would say more likely. You want me to elaborate on it?
Sorry.
Yeah, I think please. Sorry. More likely, because I think you look at, Rodney Hood is an upgrade. You've still got Tristan Thompson, who he helped get that contract for. You've got Kevin Love, who you could still move in the offseason if you wanted to for something different, if GM LeBron kind of comes into play. So you get a little bit younger. So there are some pieces. And then if you kind of look at the other teams around the league that he's kind of rumored, I don't think the Golden State rumors were just thrown out there. I don't think they're legitimate, honestly. Then you're looking at like Houston, he's going to have to vie for touches with James Harden, and some other guys there, Chris Paul, things like that. So I don't really see a clear-cut option of like, oh, yeah, LeBron's going to leave Cleveland for such and such destination. I don't think the Lakers are a realistic destination right now.
All right, Kaan, what about you? Same question.
Well, I think it makes it more likely. One, I just don't think LeBron James wants to be on a team where the owner is Dan Gilbert anymore. So I think if you take LeBron out of the equation, all of these moves were very solid. I mean, if you add, like I said, add those 4 guys onto the court and then add the Brooklyn pick, whoever they get. I mean, that could be anyone from the top like 3-4 pick to 8, 9. But there are a lot of wings in this draft, and there are some quality big men, and either position can really fit really well. And then Rodney Hood, he'll become he's going to get into his prime. Jordan Clarkson, I said I'm fairly higher than most at least. And then Larry Nance is a quality piece. I think Jetty is going to be quality for them. And I think this move, whether or not LeBron James stays, puts them in a much better situation than they would have been if they kept the other players, because everyone else was so much older and they would have just been like, okay, well, what the hell are we going to do now? What the hell are we going to do now? With LeBron James gone and everyone over 30, this was just a masterclass really from Kobe Altman here. I actually, one thing I want to say is, if you swapped the first round pick that went to the Lakers with sending that to the Jazz, I think all the trades make sense from how I view things, because I thought the first round pick was maybe a bit much to give up to the Lakers for what they got. And then I thought maybe Rodney Hood deserved a first round coming back for Utah. But in the end, if you look at the whole package, it was great for Cleveland.
Yeah, I think in on the Cleveland side, that absolutely makes sense what you said. If you look at them just in a vacuum, what they sent out versus what they brought in and everything, definitely fair return for everything they sent out. I think this makes it more likely that LeBron leaves, simply because the Lakers opened up enough cap space now to have 2 max slots this summer. And that's what he wants, right? He basically, it's been out there that he's not going to consider it if it can't be him and somebody else. And now it can be. So let's flip it over to the Lakers side of this trade. And then I promise we'll get to the Kings and the Jazz, but we'll get to them down the line as we get there. So the Lakers side of this, Jordan Clarkson and Larry Nance go out. They bring in Isaiah Thomas and Channing Frye and a first round pick. So, I think, Kaan, what you were leading to is that's great work to get that first round pick almost as a throwaway. It's almost like a why. Why did Cleveland do that? And for me, that makes it a definite win for the Lakers. They cleared off enough space. They're really now renounce all the free agents and then stretch Luol Deng, and they're there. They're where they need to be to have those 2 max slots. And that's still keeping guys like Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, and Lonzo Ball around on the roster, as well as Vica Zubac and a couple of those more fringy guys there. So that'll be interesting to see where that ultimately goes. I know they had said the other day they might be pivoting towards 2019. I think that changed in a big way with this trade, because I think they'll go after it. So Kaan, if you were the Lakers and you're going after two big guys, who are the 2 big free agents you would target? Let's assume they want to come there and all that.
Well, yeah, first, before I answer that, I want to say, why did they get a first rounder? Because I know we disagree here, but because I think Larry Nance is a positive asset, and so is, Jordan Clarkson is a positive asset, and Larry Nance obviously is as well. And then with Channing Frye just being salary relief and IT, at this point, I feel like for the Lakers, he's just salary relief as well for next year for their goals. But they can obviously re-sign him, and he's been really bad and this year, and his attitude and all that. So I think that since it was 2 positive assets from the view of both teams, I think that's why the first round had to be in there, and the Lakers wouldn't do it. But
yeah, but so we're going to obviously agree to disagree. Pete and I are on the same page on Jordan Clarkson. We both.
So are a lot of people. So it's
I think he's more just of a good stats, bad team guy. But we're going to find out for sure now, right?
We will.
Now he's going to play the first meaningful basketball of his career, so that'll be good to see what he can do and what he really is. I think Nance was the payment to move Clarkson, but I had a lot of Lakers people tell me that they believed they could get a first for him, and they did. So good work on them, and good belief. To kind of say with Isaiah Thomas too, he's obviously not healthy. It's plain to see. He has no explosion. He has no quickness. Can't get by anybody. And that's a huge problem when you're 5'9". If you don't have the explosion that he usually plays with, you're just not going to get anything done. So that, and it's heartbreaking for me as everybody knows who listens to this, he's my daughter's favorite player in the world. And it just, it kills me that the guy's not healthy. But it's interesting that the Lakers said that they're not going to buy him out. They want to keep him. They want to keep Frye. They want to keep Brook Lopez. I don't know. To me, I would just, move those guys on, maybe keep one of them. But once Lonzo's back, what do you need Lonzo and Tyler Ennis and Alex Caruso and Isaiah Thomas for? It doesn't make a lot of sense. So I would just move them and let them go. But all right, let's get into the question I asked now. If you're the Lakers, what 2 max free agents are you going after, Kaan?
It's LeBron and Paul George. I mean, you need the wings, you need the defensive guys, and I mean, yeah, you could go for Boogie, but his Achilles.
Would it be different if he was healthy?
It would not have been. It wouldn't be different in terms of who I would pick top 2, but I think that going with you can't go wrong with either Boogie or Paul George, because Boogie's just that special of a talent, and I think with LeBron, he can. I mean, we saw what he did with the Pelicans this year. I think with LeBron and all the other pieces around, he can actually be serious and play really well. But I still think it's Paul George and LeBron just because of the versatility. LeBron at the 5, Paul George at the 4, with Ingram at the 3, like that, just all wing lineup would be awesome to watch. And it's a possibility. So we'll see.
What about you, Pete?
I mean, obviously the top 2, just like Kaan said, would be Paul George and LeBron. If you happen to run into a scenario where Paul George ends up back in Oklahoma City, I would say LeBron, if you can definitely get LeBron on board, why not go for a defensive guy that can rebound in DeAndre Jordan? I know that would be technically an overpay in some people's eyes, kind of maxing DeAndre Jordan out, but he would kind of, be there to anchor the defense and grab boards. He doesn't have to worry about scoring.
If they did it for like 2 years, it's not the end of the world, right?
Right.
That's going to be the thing with him. So I'm with you guys. I think it's LeBron and Paul George. I think Boogie's out of the mix. But what's important to note here is this doesn't have to be just used as a signing, right? Because now you have a second max spot. What if they wanted to throw a package to New Orleans for Anthony Davis? I know the Celtics fans that listen to this that follow me over at Celtics blog, or they're panicked now and didn't want to hear that. But why not, right? They can put together a package. Boston can probably still top it with the picks and a couple of the young guys that they have, but it'd be really close. What about Marc Gasol? You've got enough space to go get him if you wanted to get a big on the market that way. What if you got LeBron and threw a max offer sheet at Nikola Jokic just to force the Nuggets to match it, then pay him the full boat?
What about Chris Paul?
Yeah, Chris Paul. Yeah,
Chris Paul's a free agent. Like he's playing really well in Houston, but with LeBron in LA, maybe he wants to go back to LA. I don't know. But
then you could turn and flip Lonzo in another deal,
and that wouldn't even have to be a long-term commitment, because you could give Chris Paul maybe like a 2-year max, and I know LeBron's probably just going to go 1 year and player option till the end of his career. I don't know. Maybe that's not true, but
he might do 2 and then a player. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, because I don't think he wants to limit himself to a team for 5 years either, and he's going to get a max till he retires. So, I mean, I could definitely see a scenario where LeBron's like, "Hey, Chris, like, let's go," And
you absolutely can. I guess the big takeaway is they're now positioned to do basically whatever they want, and the Lakers with 1 max cap slot is scary enough. The Lakers with 2 is basically they're going to do stuff. And, even if it's only sign big contracts for 1 year and then keep that powder dry for next year, if they prefer the free agents in the 2019 class, they're going to be in the mix for whoever they want now going forward for at least the next year or in 2 years. And that's really scary for the rest of the NBA, because the Lakers with this kind of flexibility to do things are tough. So any other thoughts on the Lakers before we close this out and move over to the rest of the league?
I quickly wanted to say on our last pod, I mentioned how it wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world to just keep it together and move forward. And then like that night or the next day, it got leaked, or there were reports of, hey, they're actually going for 2019. And I thought that was actually a pretty smart idea. But with this trade, a lot of things are really possible. So I think they can just do anything. And signing 1-year deals with LeBron stuff, that opens up so many other players like that are going to come in the future. But
yep. Pete, any last thoughts on the Lakers?
I'm just glad that the rumors of Brook Lopez kind of being a buyout candidate kind of got squashed today. It looks like they're going to keep him through the rest of the year, at least what they said today. And hopefully that's true, because I think that he can help them a little bit more through this year, just being obviously a veteran in the locker room, and he does do things on the floor. So all around, I think it's a good move. But we're looking to the summer for big things from the Lakers. So they can just weather the storm the rest of the year and get Lonzo healthy soon enough.
Yeah, and that's definitely a key. And I think Isaiah Thomas gives the fans something to watch and cheer for the rest of this season. Not that, I mean, they've got so many good young guys that they're already invested in watching this team anyway, but I think he'll help. All right, so we are the NBA Front Office Show. We are brought to you by the Almighty Baller Podcast Network. We're going to take a quick break, and then we will get right back to it. And welcome back to the show. We are the NBA Front Office Show, part of the Almighty Baller Podcast Network. For those of you watching live, you get a little peek behind the curtain there, how we put those ads in the middle of the show, or how Kaan works his magic. I don't know how he does it. I don't know. That's up to him. That's why we have a producer.
It's not that hard.
Yeah, I'm sure it isn't. But when you're as dumb as I am, everything seems hard. All right, guys, what I want to do now, we're going to do this kind of quickly, but we're going to just go team by team and talk about everybody who did something over the course of the last couple of days, or really the last week since we recorded last. Kaan and I recorded Sunday morning, and there's been a handful of deals since then. So let's start it. We're just going to go alphabetical by city so that way we don't miss anybody. So let's start with the Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks traded Luke Babbitt. And in the trade, they acquired Okara White, who they then waived, and then they acquired Sheldon Mack for I believe, a heavily protected second-round pick that'll never convey. That was a deal just designed to give Washington a little bit of tax relief. So for the Hawks, basically A2 contracts, and you traded away Babbitt, and you got a little something in return for it. I think this is the smart kind of move for them. I thought they might move Marco Bellinelli. It seemed like all for the last week they would after they benched him. So, Kaan, I'll go to you first. Were you surprised Bellinelli did not get traded?
I thought that was one of the more obvious moves that was going to happen in the deadline, and goes to show that you don't always know what's going to happen when teams actually sit down and start negotiating. But I actually would. I'm very curious to hear why. I mean, I guess we won't find out, but I'm. It's hard to think that some team wouldn't throw a second rounder at least for Marco Bellinelli's expiring deal.
That's where I was by the end of the deadline. I was like, well, somebody's at least going to throw him a second and get something's better than nothing. I know Ersan Ilyasova kind of put out there that he was not going to waive his no trade clause. I think he's. After playing for half the league in the last 3 seasons, I think he's done moving, and he wants to just stay where he is. So, Pete, were you surprised Bellinelli didn't go?
Absolutely, I was surprised because I had it 99% he was going to get moved, and I was hoping that my Sixers could kind of swoop in. I know they were rumored to kind of be talking to him, swoop in and give up, maybe even a 2 second rounders and get Bellinelli back, but just didn't work out.
Yeah, that one's weird to me. I said it, and you guys know I've been saying it for the last week. Luke Babbitt was on the market. Somebody was going to pick him up. People don't realize how good of a shooter Luke Babbitt is. He's going to really help the Heat as a guy down there. He knows their system already. He's been there for a couple years prior, so he'll slide right back in and be a solid pickup for the Heat. All right, the Boston Celtics, they did not do any trades. So first question, Pete, we'll go to you. Are you surprised they did not do a trade at the deadline?
I'm just surprised that they didn't get Tyreke Evans, but I don't think that they realistically offered enough to entice Memphis overall. I think it was Yabusele and like a second rounder or something was rumored to be thrown out there. But I was surprised that Evans didn't end up, they got some kind of scoring to help solidify their bench.
Kaan, what about you? Did you expect them to come away with Evans today?
Not really. I expected a quiet deadline for Boston more, and I guess the buyout market was where I thought they would go, but they already got Greg Monroe. So we'll see what else they have. I'm sure Danny Ainge isn't done making moves, but they're happy with where they are.
Yeah, I really thought they were going to get Evans, but Memphis would not move off the demand of a first-round pick. And now it sounds like Memphis is open to trying to work something with Tyreke long-term, whether that be using their non-taxpayer mid-level this summer or whatever it is. That sounds like where they want to go, because I don't think the Grizzlies intend for this to be a down period for very long. I think they want to bounce right back. But Boston, Greg Monroe did sign today. He will be active for tonight's game against the Washington Wizards and is likely to make his Celtics debut. He's going to be a massive help to Boston. They need someone who can rebound like Monroe can. He's already, without even playing a game, he's the best rebounder on the roster, and it's not even close. And he'll give them some bench scoring from the 4 and 5. All right, let's move on to the Brooklyn Nets. They traded the other day. They traded Tyler Zeller to the Milwaukee Bucks for Rashad Vaughn. Vaughn played, I believe, 6 minutes last night. He's now the Rasheed Wallace of this deadline and was instantly sent to the New Orleans Pelicans for Dante Cunningham. This for me is a meh kind of move, whatever. It's, Brooklyn takes on a little extra money. They get a look at Cunningham. They've got some injuries up front. So I think they're trying to work through that a little bit. And then we'll go on that. Do either one of you have anything to add on this one, or can we just move on?
Yes. No.
A lot of fringe moves today.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Always is at the deadline. And there was a deadline once where I remember way back in the day where it was like Milt Palacio was like the only guy traded, and that was like the only thing that happened all day. And I'm showing my age there. All right, let's move on. Charlotte Hornets, they worked a deal a couple of days ago with the New York Knicks to bring in Willie Hernangomez for Johnny O'Brien and a couple of second-round picks. Kind of just taking a flyer on Hernan Gomez for Charlotte. The cost was right, though. I think this is a good move, and if they can move off either Cody Zeller or Dwight Howard or whatever they end up doing going forward, I think Hernan Gomez slides in this year, though I don't know how much he's going to play. I think maybe a little while Marvin Williams is out if they play Zeller more as a 4. But Pete, any thoughts quickly on Hernan Gomez to the Hornets?
I think he's a good long-term asset. Like you said, he has the ability to rebound and he can score. It's just, like you said, they're going to have to move off of either Howard or Zeller. And I could see them trying to shed a bunch of salary this offseason, but just nothing was out there that was realistically enticing for them to do anything, right now, especially with Kemba Walker. No star moves or anything.
Yeah. Kaan, anything?
I was surprised that it was 2 seconds. I mean, I know Hernan Gomez is good, and I know Charlotte has a lot of centers, but I felt like 2 seconds could be used in kind of other more salary dump type moves for the Hornets. So that's the only thing that kind of shocked me. But I think long-term Hernan Gomez is a better answer than some of the guys they have. It's just for 2 years they have all those other guys. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, those salary dumps weren't there at this deadline, but definitely this summer. They could have.
But now they don't have the 2 picks. Exactly.
And I think the one thing for the Knicks is, and we'll touch on them a little later because they did another trade today, but they got back the 2 seconds they gave up to get Hernan Gomez. So because they gave every second they had for like 4 years or 5 years in a row to Pete 76ers. So with that one. All right, Kaan, you're going to be the only one who's going to chime in on this one because it's your team. The Chicago Bulls picked up Jameer Nelson for Willie Reed. The other way around, they traded Jameer Nelson to get Willie Reed, who was then waived, and then they picked up Noah Vonleh as the Portland Trail Blazers dumped him to avoid the luxury tax. What's your thoughts on Vonleh to the Bulls?
Man, I've actually been saying the Bulls should take a flyer on Vonleh for a while now, actually, since the beginning of the season. So I was really happy that they picked him up. He's still only 22 years old. I think he could definitely be a long-term fit for a backup big type role. And I mean, he's shown flashes of range before. He's pretty athletic. So I'm really excited that they got him just to see what he's made of in this kind of young developing team.
Yeah, I like him a hell of a lot more than Cristiano Felicio, who's making $32 million. So that is,
I think he'll earn some of that at the later years of the contract, but that's another story.
Okay. Yeah, sure. We'll talk about that in the offseason preview. I'm filing that one away for certain. All right, let's move on. Dallas Mavericks. Dallas Mavericks, they were part of a 3-way trade with the Denver Nuggets and New York Knicks. The Mavericks acquired Doug McDermott. The Knicks acquired Emmanuel Mudiay, and the Nuggets got Devin Harris in the trade. There was some swapping of second-round picks that went on in that as well. So I'll take this one, McDermott to the Mavs. I like it. I think it's a good. Try him out for the rest of the season, see what it looks like. He was high school teammates, good friends with Harrison Barnes. So I think that's reuniting those two is really going to be something to watch for here as we go. So it'll be really, cool to see what they end up doing the rest of the way with McDermott. I think, Rick Carlisle, if anybody can unlock what he is, it'll be him. I'll also throw this out there. I don't be surprised if they end up buying out Nerlens Noel and freeing him up. I just don't know that he's part of anything they're going to try to do. A lot of people thought he'd get moved at the deadline. He did not, and it would not surprise me at all if they buy him out and let him go pick his destination, which could maybe be Cleveland. They're, if they're looking for another big, and unless they're, fully set with Kendrick Perkins return to the NBA. All right, Denver Nuggets. Kaan, I'm going to go to you. They got Devin Harris, veteran backup point guard, something they've not had all season long. Gave up Mudiay. What's your thoughts on the point guard swap in Denver?
I think Devin Harris in a second, I feel like was selling low on Mudiay. Even though maybe he hasn't played as well as they thought, I still think that a young point guard like him with the potential that he was touted to have maybe could have pulled more. And also they need a backup point. And I just don't know. I would have kept Mudiay. I wasn't a huge fan of this. We'll see how Devin Harris plays with them. But I think selling low on Mudiay this early wasn't necessary, but it seemed like they thought it was. So I'm just curious what they were thinking.
Yeah, I guess for me it was they just wanted that veteran. They wanted somebody with a little bit of size. Harris has played a lot of the three for Dallas this year, in a lot of their wacky point guard heavy lineups. He does a lot of that. So I like it. Pete, any quick thoughts on Harris to Denver?
I like it from a veteran standpoint, but I just a little bit worried if Harris, because he's injury prone, then what do they have kind of there to back up Murray other than Monte Morris out of the G League
on the two-way?
Yeah. So I don't know.
I mean, what did they have before? Moutier stinks.
Yeah, but at least I mean he's got NBA experience. I'm a little bit optimistic on Moutier going to New York. Maybe go right into that. What do you think about Moutier and with the Knicks? I think right now he's already better than what Ntilikina can bring. Now Ntilikina, of course, off defensively is better than Moutier, but I think offensively Moutier's ahead of Ntilikina. Now you've also got Trey Burke there, but I think it's a collection of career backups on the Knicks. So I don't know. This is Moutier's chance to basically shine, all the way through and get basically a second chance. The Knicks wanted him in the draft. So we'll see. I mean, that kind of lets Ntilikina play a little bit of the off guard spot coming off the bench as well. It's what he did in France. So we'll see.
All right, Con, your eyebrows, mate, your hairline. Go ahead and respond, man.
Well, I feel maybe I'm higher on Ntilikina than you are, Pete, because I think he's definitely more than a career backup. I think he has. I think he's worth where he was picked, and I was saying that since he was picked, and while people were saying that maybe they should have taken Dennis Smith Jr., I don't know. I think it's him and Moutier. I think they're both long. For the point guard position, so they can both play the off guard. So I think both of them, I wouldn't be surprised if they end up both starting next year with Hardaway Jr. at the 3. I think that's an interesting lineup, and it's another kind of a cheap flyer on a young talent with high upside. And Doug McDermott was helping them, but I don't know if he's part of their future. So it wasn't that big of an ask. And I would do McDermott for Moutier if I were them, and let's see how it turns out.
Yeah, so my thoughts on this one is Moutier he's not good right now, which is why Denver didn't need him. Denver needed someone who could give them quality minutes because they were going all too often without any kind of backup point guard. They were either, sticking Will Barton in there or Gary Harris. And I know Jokic does so much of the ball handling, but that's almost too much. Couple quick things on Moutier with the Knicks. I like it from when you're a bad team, you should just acquire as much talent as possible and just pile it up and then sort it out later. I also like it because Jeff Hornacek had really good luck using 2 point guards in Phoenix when he ran out Bledsoe and Dragic. Now, I'm not saying Moody and Ntilikina are Bledsoe and Dragic, but I think it's to the point where try some stuff the rest of this year. Porzingis is out. This year's just a throwaway now. Just run those two guys out there together, and I think they surprise maybe at times. And if you can get Moody motivated defensively, you could really be onto something with those two guys. The way with their length, the way they defend. All right, that's enough on the Knicks. Let's move on. Detroit Pistons. So they acquired Jameer Nelson early today from the Chicago Bulls, and then they also acquired James Ennis as they continue rebuilding. I like both moves for the Pistons. I think they were both great pickups. They got Nelson basically for free because Willie Reed did nothing for them and wasn't going to do anything for them. And then they got Ennis for Bryce Johnson, who was going to do even less than Willie Reed was going to do. So I think that's two quality NBA veterans who now will slot in. I will not be surprised if James Ennis is starting for them at the 3. Once he's comfortable in the system, I think he would make a lot of sense as their 3-man, or they can use their 2-3 interchangeably. So maybe at the 2 with Stanley Johnson, but it wouldn't shock me to see him pick up the starting role, as well as I think it'd be Nelson immediately becomes the best backup point guard on the roster while Reggie Jackson is out. So now they've got the depth they need. Kaan, thoughts on the Pistons moves today?
I think they nailed it. Really, because they giving up Tobias and Avery Bradley, it was all about how they didn't have the wing depth, and getting a quality rotation wing piece. I would say Stanley and Ennis probably end up starting together, or maybe closing if they don't start. But I think that's going to be their better lineup. And yeah, adding a wing to this rotation that got 2 of their starting wings traded with Blake Griffin. It's looking like the Pistons are pulling off some nice moves to, win now, yeah, but they're a solid team and they've been playing really well since Blake got there. So I'm really interested to see how they perform in the playoffs. Actually,
Pete, are you nervous? They're right behind your Sixers.
I'm going to be completely honest, and I've said to many other people that I've talked to, I don't see my Sixers. Think they're a year away. I think the Pistons are going to leapfrog them. Unless something drastic happens, like Washington falls down the standings, I just don't see how Philadelphia is going to make it in. I think they fall short at the 9th seed. It's just too much inconsistency.
All right. We'll go down the list then as my computer freezes up. All right, so Golden State did nothing. Houston did nothing. Indiana did nothing. Clippers already did their big move. Those teams all kind of stood pat. The Clippers, they were rumored to be doing some stuff, but didn't end up doing anything. And those other 3, I think they're pretty. Golden State and Houston, they weren't going to do anything anyway unless it was shed a player to open up a spot. And then Indiana, they were interested in maybe selling some of their cap space to take on a bad contract, but that obviously did not happen either. So let's go into it with the Memphis Grizzlies. So we just talked about them trading James Ennis. That one, fine. Bryce Johnson, that's a flyer. You got to pick. That's good. Pete, I'll start with you. Did they blow it by not trading Tyreke Evans?
I'm worried because they're kind of putting a market value on Evans. I know the market's going to be slim, but I think kind of where they feel that they can, the money they feel they can get him at, I think they might be a little bit be surprised and outpriced come free agency, because Tyreke Evans can score, and a lot of mediocre teams could really use him as a scorer, maybe even as a starter. I just think it's going to come back and bite Memphis in the butt a little bit, that they didn't try to at least get, even with Philly, they could have got like a King, the King second rounder that they're owed, out of that, because that would have been a high second rounder, something, to kind of salvage that, because then you're left with a recovering Conley, Marc Gasol, who's aging. Dylan Brooks is a good, decent prospect for them. And that's really what you have as an enticing, kind of core there.
Yeah, it's funny. I was on the radio today in Memphis at about 2:30, so about a half hour before the deadline, and they were just flabbergasted that they had not moved Evans and that they were insisting on a first round pick. Con, do you think he gets more than the mid level, or or the full mid level exception this summer?
I think maybe no, I don't think he gets more than that. I think if he does, it's like a 2-year deal max type thing. Because I just don't see him replicating this play another year. And with the cap environment being really kind of short this year. And I just wanted to mention, I saw Zach Lowe tweet out that they were offered by the Nuggets, Moutier and a second or 2 seconds. And if that's true, which I mean, I'm sure Zach Lowe isn't just going to put stuff out there that isn't true. But I think they messed up not taking that, because I think Moutier, even though they might not be too high on him, if they were to flip Mike Conley or try to look for a Mike Conley trade, that allows them to have a nice young point guard to kind of shake it up with and rebuild. And if that was on the table, I think that's more than enough for Tyreek, because a first obviously wasn't, because they would have pulled that.
Yeah, they definitely should have done a move to get him. It's just there's no guarantee he's going to stay. There's no guarantee he's going to stay healthy if he does stay, and no guarantee that he's going to be as good as he was this season for them.
And Tyreek on the Nuggets would have been awesome.
Yeah, he would have been. Yeah, he would have been that backup guard, that they could have had instead of Devin Harris. So, yeah, definitely, maybe a best opportunity there on both sides. All right, the Miami Heat, they brought Dwayne Wade home, as well as, I guess, they brought Luke Babbitt home, too. I think one of those homecomings is more celebrated and anticipated than the other. I like Wade coming back. They have so many injuries on the wings that it's good. It's a feel-good story, too, for a team that's there's times when it looks like they might be the fighting for home court advantage, and there's times when it looks like they might not even make the playoffs. Babbitt, I think, will help up front. They had to waive Okara White, or they traded away Okara White, who then got waived. They liked White. He was okay for them. And then they waived AJ Hammonds to create the other roster spot to bring in Wade. Hammonds is, he wasn't going to do anything for Miami, just taking up some space there. Save a little bit of money next year by waiving Hammonds as well, or not. They don't save. They're going to eat a cap hit next season, but it's not the end of the world. It's only about $1.5 million. So, Pete, Wade, is this going to make a big difference for Miami?
I think it helps them from a veteran standpoint, puts fans in the seat. But as far as on the court play, I don't know how much Wade has in him night in, night out to really, really propel the Heat, any further up the standings. Right now, they just have to hope that their, recent slide doesn't keep, that they don't keep sliding down the standings. I think they'll be okay. They'll make the playoffs, but it's more so, about nostalgia and, getting longtime, Heat fans excited again, that Wade returned.
Con, you got anything to add to that?
No, I do think Okara White will be a nice buyout candidate for a team. I mean, I know he's hurt, but I think he can add depth to a team, and I'm curious who's going to pick him up, because I think he will get picked up.
Yeah, I think he might be a 10-day guy when he's healthy.
Maybe, yeah.
The team might give him a 10-day or two and see what he can do, and then go from there with him. And then Hammonds, he's probably just going to go back to the G League. Wouldn't be surprising if he stays right with Sioux Falls in the G League, and then the Heat continue to still work with him through that avenue. All right, the Milwaukee Bucks, they traded out Rashad Vaughn, as we mentioned earlier, and picked up Tyler Zeller. I'll take this one, because since I think I probably know Zeller's game the best. Zeller's the kind of guy you exactly want as a third string center. He's always well prepared. He plays hard. He knows what he's supposed to be doing, and he goes out there and executes. He's not great, but he can rebound a little bit, give you a little bit of defense, and can score okay, especially in the pick and roll if you're playing him with a quality passer. So that's what he'll give Milwaukee for the cost of a guy that wasn't in part of their plans anymore. In Rashad Vaughn, that's fine. The Minnesota Timberwolves, they did not do anything. They're rumored to be signing Derrick Rose on the buyout market. That just boggles my mind.
You and me both.
Yeah, I think all three of us, right, are in the same boat.
They
So
should bring
that,
in
yeah,
Noah
whatever.
too. They should bring
I
in
know.
Noah.
Yeah.
They should trade for Dang.
Yeah.
Bring back
Just reassemble
Bogans.
the Bulls. Yeah. There we go. But Ben Gordon, Kirk Heinrich aren't doing anything, so bring them in too. All right, the New Orleans Pelicans, their move was to trade away Dante Cunningham, and then they got Rashad Vaughn. I actually think, as much as Vaughn hasn't shown much, I think he might be able to help the Pelicans a little bit. And most importantly, this cleared some space for them under the hard cap, as they are going to continue to push for buyout candidates the rest of this year. They'll be in the mix for somebody. I continue to believe they're most likely to go after a true center. It may be Willie Reed, who shook loose, could be someone for New Orleans. All right, the Orlando Magic. They gave up on Elfrid Payton, and there's no other way to put it than they gave up on Elfrid Payton. Gave him away for a second-round pick. A lot of people went crazy that they just drafted him with the 10th pick overall and had to make a trade to get him and blah, 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 blah. That was not this front office. This front office did not do that move. They obviously were not sold on Peyton being part of the future in Orlando, so it was time for them to move on from him. Pete, were you surprised they couldn't get more for Peyton?
Yeah, I just a second rounder. I was like, what? Like, I just couldn't believe that they sold that kind of low on him. But then again, I don't know, like you said, that this front office was even sold that, at all on Elfrid Payton. Even if he would have come back cheaply, back, in the summer once he becomes a free agent, I still don't think they would have done it. This gives the Magic, a clear-cut look at, free agency for point guards or, of course, the draft. Like, you've got Trae Young there, Colin Sexton, different guys that, could potentially come in and be their pick.
Yeah, no, they definitely will be looking at a point guard, ideally someone who like a Trae Young, who can really score the ball and maybe put on a show a little bit too and get some excitement. Because right now, I tell you, I live here in Orlando. If you guys didn't know that, no one cares at all about anything to do with this team. Kaan, any thoughts on Peyton being given away by the Magic?
It's just obvious that they really didn't want to sign him, and if he wasn't going to be on the team next year anyway, then might as well get a second-round pick. It did look like selling low. I think it's great for Phoenix. Not that it's going to help them a lot. I just think a second-rounder is definitely worth a shot at Elfrid Payton, and we'll see. I think he can still be a quality backup point guard. I don't think he's going to be a starter, but yeah, I like it for Phoenix, and for Orlando, it's just like whatever. they didn't want Peyton, so let's just take a second rounder. I kind of agree with your take on how Magic fans feel on the Magic a little bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's exactly what it is. People have gone from being angry to not caring, which is worse than being angry. People will come back to Philly, I promise, but I want to go to Phoenix since we're talking the trade. I think Peyton's going to be okay for them. I think Devin Booker covers for a lot of his flaws. He covers for a lot of Booker's flaws. I think if Phoenix is committed to playing an up-tempo style, Peyton can really thrive in that, getting up and down the floor. He should do well with Chris and Bender and TJ Warren as his running mates up front. I think, we're going to start to see them really fully transition into their youth movement now and go with the young guys as long as they're all healthy. So I really like them getting a look at Peyton. I want to see what they do with him this summer. But restricted free agents, the expectation is they're all going to get squeezed this summer and not get paid a ton, so they might be in pretty good position to do that. Kaan, quick thoughts on Peyton of Phoenix?
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of said it. I think he'll fit in nice. I mean, they have a lot of young players, and see which one sticks at this point. And second rounder is worth it. Well, whose second round pick was it? Because I doubt they gave their own. Was it the Miami? Did they have a Miami second rounder?
No, it's a really messy one. It's like the best of 4 teams.
Oh, okay.
Josh
okay,
Robbins tweeted it. If you want to look, Josh Robbins tweeted the exact details on his timeline.
Because I was gonna say, like, the Phoenix second might not even be worth Elfrid Payton.
It's the second most favorable of the Grizzlies, Hornets, and the Miami Heat's 2018 second rounders. For now, that would be
me a headache.
Yeah, for now it's the Charlotte pick.
Okay, so all right.
Yeah, I mean, whatever, right? It's a middle to high second rounder, I guess, is probably going to be around 10-ish.
Yeah.
All right, Pete, I'm going to give you. Oh, you want to say something about Peyton of Phoenix?
I was just going to chime in really quick. I think at the very least, they get a healthy guy in there that has starting experience. I just think that Tyler Eulis was overwhelmed. They played Josh Gray out of the G League 31 minutes because they've been ravaged by injuries in the backcourt. They waived Isaiah Cannon. Unfortunately, he had that horrific injury. So I think this gives Peyton a chance to maybe get a new outlook. Maybe I'm still not high on Elfrid Payton, but maybe a new outlook and sticks with Phoenix moving forward.
Yeah, we all know how I feel about point guards that can't shoot, so we don't need to go down that path again. Right. All right, Pete, we're going to give you are the only Sixers fan on the podcast. You have 1 minute. How angry are you that they didn't make a move?
I'm not angry that they didn't make a move. I would have liked either Bellinelli or Tyreke Evans, but at the end of the day, I will be happy if they can get Markelle Fultz back healthy and he can actually hit a jump shot, because what I've seen in some of the videos, it looks optimistic that he might be able to shoot a little bit better than 2 months ago when it was just god awful, not being able to do anything with that shoulder injury. So
yeah, this last round of videos that came out, he looks a lot better. It looks smooth again. There's not that hitch and that whatever that bring it up and shoot it underneath his chin like a little kid does.
I just wonder if they're going to actually come out with an announcement and say, "Hey, he's out for the season. We just ruled him out."
I don't know. I think a lot will depend on what happens in the next month. If they're still in the mix for the playoffs, then maybe they don't bring them back. If they're out of it, maybe then they do if they start to fall out of the race. All right, Kaan, I think he gave us a very trust the process answer there.
Yeah, I don't have much to add on.
Yeah. All right, Portland, I'll cover this one. Portland just did a salary dump. They dropped Noah Vonleh on Chicago Bulls, and this was all designed around getting out of the luxury tax. So good on Portland, because their cap sheet looked like there was no way they were going to be able to ever get out of the luxury tax. And over the span of a couple of years, they managed to pull that off. So, giving up on Vonleh's tough, but they already have a bunch of other bigs that they paid money to that they don't play. So, or drafted. And Vonleh there was going to be no time. He wasn't going to get on the court for them. So we'll see what he can do in Chicago. All right, let's move on. Sacramento Kings. The Kings were part of that big Cleveland trade where they traded George Hill, and then they took in Joe Johnson and Amon Shumpert, and then they waived Georgios Papagiannis, which was maybe a little bit of a surprise. They also did another minor move where they traded Malachi Richardson for Bruno Caboclo. I think a lot of people thought they were going to get Caboclo, then waive him, and now it's how they're going to complete the Cleveland trade, but they didn't. They kept Caboclo. So that's kind of a different look there. So what do you think about that? We don't need to spend a lot of time on it because Joe Johnson's not part of the future there, and I think they'd prefer if Amon Shumpert wasn't. So it was good work to get out of the money owed to George Hill. Anything else beyond that?
No, you hit it. Young guys all the way.
Okay. Kaan, anything?
Not really. I just was surprised that because they didn't really get anything back. They just didn't want to pay George Hill $19 million next year, because I think they're still going to have to pay Amon Shumpert. So maybe they created $8 million of room, I guess, for next year. So yeah, I guess George Hill wasn't really playing for them, and they didn't really need him to anyway. So
yeah, or want him to, or pay him money or whatever. So all right, the Toronto Raptors. I just mentioned this minor deal that they did. Richardson. And they get a couple extra years of a young guy under team control is the way I look at that. Caboclo is set to be a restricted free agent this summer. They were rumored to be in on DeAndre Jordan. I think they've still got an open roster. I know they still have an open roster spot, so they're going to be, maybe looking at someone on the buyout market. They're right there as a luxury tax team, so that becomes, potentially a challenge. But it would not surprise me if they pick somebody else up. But they don't really need much. Starting five is rock solid. Their bench is all young guys and all playing well. I don't think they want to mess around with it very much. Any thoughts on Toronto not doing anything today?
Man, I think I like Malachi. I think he can be a solid player in the future, and they are good at developing talent. Who would have thought DeLon Wright, Fred VanVleet, Bebe, they're good at developing young talent, and I think they were ready to get rid of Bruno, and let's see what Malachi can do.
Kaan and the Richardson family, like Malachi. All right, let's go to the Utah Jazz. The Jazz traded Rodney Hood and Joe Johnson in that big Cleveland Sacramento three-way trade, and then they brought in Derrick Rose, who they're going to waive. They don't need him. They've got plenty of point guards, and then they also brought in Jay Crowder. I actually said this on Twitter. I think Crowder's going to help them a lot. I think you're going to see him get back to being the good player he was in Boston, because he's going to be in a very structured offensive and defensive system. So I think you're going to see Crowder really step up. He's going to replace what Johnson was. Johnson at this point is a 3-4. That's exactly what Crowder is, and I think he's going to give them those minutes. There, a lot of people are like, oh, they're really going to miss Hood. They've missed him all year. He's barely been healthy this season. So it was a case with Hood too. Is you already locked into Joe Ingles, and Donovan Mitchell's got that starting 2-guard spot on lock. So you're not going to commit big money to Hood. So I love them picking up Crowder. I've always got a little bit of a soft spot for him because of what he did with the Celtics, and he played so hard for them. So quick thoughts on Crowder, because we don't need to talk about Rose. Crowder to the Jazz. Pete.
I like Crowder there because Cephalosha's out for the season. So obviously, Crowder steps in there for Joe Johnson and Cephalosha. So being a wing defender, and then, like you said, structured on offense is what Crowder needs, kind of knowing what his role is. And then I like Royce O'Neal. I know a lot of people have said, oh, Alec Burks gets a spot, in the rotation. I actually like Royce O'Neal's upside a little bit more. Want to see him get consistent minutes in the rotation over Alec Burks personally, but that's just maybe just me. But, good move all around.
Yep. Kaan, anything on the Utah pickup?
I thought what you said with the Hood being out is fine. It makes it a bit more sensible, I guess. I just thought that maybe Hood could have brought in more, but then again, Crowder, like prime Celtics Crowder, is exactly what the Jazz can need. The nice system role player, 3-and-D. So it's good, and he's on a great contract too if they can get him back up to that level. So not paying Hood is probably what they were going for.
Yeah, I what I will say is I think the Jazz did a very Jazz move where they're not going to commit big money to someone they're not totally sold on. If they can get a good cost control guy, that's what they're going to do. All right, we'll close it out with the Washington Wizards. All they really did was a salary dump where they got rid of Sheldon Mack. They now have 2 open roster spots, so I would watch them on the buyout. They moved Mack so that if they sign a veteran on the buyout market to a minimum deal, their luxury tax hit isn't as big, and they're in a much more comfortable spot. So good work by Washington. All right, folks, that's going to close us out here on the NBA Front Office Show. That was a quick wrap-up of trade deadline day. To give you an idea what we're going to do going forward, we will touch on buyouts and all that, because that's where we're headed to next over the real next 2 months, really, a month and a half ish till the end of March before guys are no longer eligible to be on playoff rosters. So we will get into all of that as it comes. And then what we're going to start doing is, as teams are really knocked out of the playoff race, we're going to start with their offseason previews and start talking through what they need to be doing. So we will make sure we touch on each team. When we do that, we will dive deep into what we think, these teams need to do with that. And we may get some special guests on for some of the team experts that we're friendly with around the NBA to come on and join us on the show. So thank you so much for those of you who joined us in the live stream. We're happy to have you there. This was, great. Something we don't do often, but it was, cool to have you all in there. And we are really happy to, to have you guys there. And then we will be back at you next week with things a little more calmed down and go with that. But for now, thanks for listening to the NBA Front Office Show. I'm your host, Keith Smith. My co-host is Pete Toal, our producer, Kaan Erel. You can find us all on Twitter. You know where to find us. And we will talk to you next time